The most valuable people in any room are rarely the loudest ones. Think about that for a moment. Think about the person you respect most in your life. The one whose opinion actually moves you. The one whose presence shifts the energy when they arrive. The one whose words land differently because they are chosen carefully rather than given away freely. They are not the person who responds to everything. They are not the one who is always available, always engaged, always present in every conversation. They are not the one who chases every interaction, fills every silence, and makes sure everyone knows their thoughts. On every subject, they are the one who selects. Who chooses when to engage and when not to. Who speaks when they have something worth saying and stays quiet when they do not. Who gives their attention deliberately rather than leaking it into everything and everyone around them, and that selectivity, that quiet, deliberate withholding of constant availability, creates something that constant presence never could value. Real, felt, unmistakable value. So before we go any further, I want you to ask yourself one honest question. Are you giving yourself away too freely? To people who do not appreciate it, to conversations that do not deserve it, to interactions that cost you without building you? Hold that. Because everything in this audiobook is about to change how you move in the world. This audiobook is not about becoming cold. It is not about becoming distant, arrogant, or deliberately difficult to reach. It is about something far more powerful, learning to treat your attention, your energy, your time, and your presence as the valuable, finite, irreplaceable resources they actually are. And watching what happens to how the world responds to you when you do, because here is what most people never discover. The moment you stop being endlessly available, something shifts. People begin to treat your attention differently. Your words begin to carry more weight. Your presence in a room becomes something that is noticed rather than assumed. And the relationships you do invest in become deeper, more genuine, and more reciprocal than anything you built through constant availability ever was. 5 chapters. 1 principle. Everything changes. There is a simple law of economics that applies to every human interaction whether we acknowledge it or not. Scarcity creates value. Abundance diminishes it. When something is everywhere, it becomes invisible. When something is rare, it becomes precious. Water is essential. More essential than diamonds. But where water is plentiful, it costs almost nothing. Where water is scarce, people trade everything to have it. Your attention works the same way. When you give your attention freely to everyone, all the time, in every situation, it becomes worth nothing. The person who responds to every message immediately, who engages with every comment, who makes themselves available to every person who wants their time, who never says no to an interaction, trains everyone around them to expect that availability as the default. And defaults are never valued. They are assumed, but the person who gives their attention selectively, who responds when it serves the relationship rather than out of anxiety or obligation, who engages deeply with the few rather than shallowly with the many, that person creates something entirely different. An experience of being chosen. An awareness in others that their access to this person is not guaranteed and therefore worth something. This is not manipulation. This is the honest recognition of a reality that has always been true. Your presence has value. Your time has value. Your engagement has value. The question is whether you are treating it that way. Chapter 1. The cost of being too available. Every time you respond to the unimportant, you are saying something about what you consider important. Lesson. Availability is a signal. Everything about when you respond, how quickly you engage, which conversations you enter and which you allow to pass without comment, sends a message to every person watching about what you value, about what you consider worthy of your attention, and ultimately about how much you value your own attention. The person who responds to every message within minutes, who never misses a notification, who is perpetually available to every request and interaction, sends a specific message. Not the one they intend to send. They intend to signal that they are responsive, reliable, engaged. But the message received is different. The message received is that their time is not scarce. That their attention is not rationed. That access to them costs nothing because it is freely given. And things that cost nothing are rarely treasured. There is also an internal cost that is even more significant than the social one. The person who gives their attention to everything gives their deepest attention to nothing. The mind that is permanently fragmented across dozens of simultaneous conversations and interactions never achieves the depth of focus that produces real insight, real creativity, real connection. Constant engagement is the enemy of depth in everything. The scattered mind produces scattered results. The focused mind, the one that selects where to direct its energy and protects that selection with deliberate boundaries, that mind produces something entirely different. Example. Think about two people in the same professional environment. The first responds to every email within minutes, never misses a message, is always available for a conversation, and constantly signals that they have time. The second responds thoughtfully but not immediately, is clearly selective about which meetings they attend, and when they do engage they are completely present. Which one seems busier? Which one seems more in demand? Which one gets taken more seriously when they finally do speak? It is always the second person. Not because they have manufactured a false sense of importance, but because their behavior is consistent with someone whose time is genuinely valuable and whose attention is genuinely rationed. Reflection. Where in your life are you currently available in ways that are costing you more than they are building you? Where has your availability trained people to undervalue your time and your presence? Transition. Understanding the cost of over-availability is the first step. The second is understanding what genuine selectivity actually looks like in practice, and why it creates such a different quality of relationship. Chapter 2. The Psychology of Selective Engagement. People want most what they cannot easily have. This is not a cynical observation. It is one of the most consistent findings in the psychology of human desire. Lesson. When access to something is unlimited, the desire for it diminishes. When access is limited, interest increases. This is true of products, of experiences, and of people. The person who is always there creates a specific kind of comfort. Pleasant, reliable, and gradually taken for granted. Because taking for granted is what the human mind does with everything it can access without effort. But the person who is sometimes there, genuinely engaged when present but genuinely unavailable when they have other priorities, creates a different kind of experience. Their presence becomes an event rather than a constant. Their engagement becomes something to appreciate rather than something to assume. This is not about creating false scarcity. It is about living in alignment with a truth that most people deny because the cultural messaging around them pushes in the opposite direction. The cultural message says be responsive. Be available. Be easy to reach. Show people you care by always being there. But the psychological reality says something different. People do not value what is always there. They value what is sometimes there. They value what is present by choice rather than present by default. They value the engagement that feels selected rather than the engagement that feels automatic. Selective engagement is not withholding love or care. It is expressing genuine self-respect. The message it sends is not I do not care about you. The message it sends is I care about the quality of my engagement more than the quantity of it. And that message, felt if not always consciously understood, creates a kind of respect that constant availability never generates. There is also a depth dimension to this that is equally important. When you engage Selectively, the engagements you do choose carry a different quality. You are fully there. Genuinely present. Not distracted by the 17 other conversations you are simultaneously managing. Not mentally elsewhere because you never gave yourself the space to arrive. Full presence is one of the rarest gifts one human being can give another. And full presence requires selectivity, because attention cannot be fully given to everything at once. Example. Think about the people in your life with whom you have felt most genuinely heard. Not the people who were always available for conversation. The people who, when they gave you their attention, gave it completely. Who listened without looking at their phone. Who responded as if what you were saying was the only thing that mattered in that moment. That quality of presence is only possible in someone who has not scattered their attention everywhere. It comes from selectivity. From the discipline of protecting engagement quality over engagement quantity. Reflection. Think about the relationships in your life where you feel most valued. What is the quality of attention and engagement in those relationships? And what is the quality of attention in the relationships where you feel least valued? Transition. The psychology explains why selectivity matters. The practice requires understanding specifically how to apply it without becoming cold, inaccessible, or genuinely disconnected from the people who matter. Chapter 3. The 5 Principles of Selective Engagement. Hook. Selectivity is not a strategy you perform. It is a standard you live. Lesson. There are 5 principles that translate the concept of selective engagement into actual daily behavior. Each one addresses a specific area where constant availability most commonly leaks value. Principle 1. Respond to what deserves a response. Not everything does. The message that is designed to provoke a reaction does not deserve one. The complaint that is seeking attention rather than resolution does not deserve your energy. The opinion offered to test whether you can be rattled does not deserve engagement. The ability to let things pass without response is one of the most powerful social skills available. It communicates that you are not moved by every attempt to move you. And things that cannot be moved are respected. Principle 2. Be fully present or be genuinely absent. The worst version of availability is the half-present version. The person who is technically there but mentally elsewhere. Who answers messages during conversations. Who gives fragmented attention to multiple people simultaneously. This version of availability is worse than absence because it creates the experience of being there while delivering the reality of not being there. Choose full presence or genuine absence. Both are honest. The half version is neither. Principle 3. Let silence work for you. Not every situation requires your words. Not every conflict requires your intervention. Not every opinion requires your endorsement. Silence, used deliberately, communicates things that words often cannot. It communicates composure. It communicates that you are not unsettled by what just arrived. It communicates that you are thinking rather than reacting. The person who speaks only when they have something worth saying makes every word count. The person who fills every silence makes no word count at all. Principle 4. Protect the first and last hours of your day. The moments when you are most yourself, most clear, most creative, most focused, are the moments that should belong to your own priorities. The first hour of the day given to other people's messages and needs means you arrive at your own life already behind. The last hour of the day given to other people's noise means You end each day without reflection. These hours, protected consistently, change the quality of everything you do inside them. Principle 5. Invest deeply in few rather than broadly in many. The quality of connection available in a small number of genuinely chosen, genuinely reciprocal relationships is not available in 100 shallow ones. The person who invests deeply in a few relationships has something that the person with 1,000 surface-level connections does not. People who genuinely know them. People whose care is real because it was earned rather than extended by default. This is the relational version of selectivity. And it produces something that broad shallow connection never can. Genuine belonging. Example. Think about someone who is known for the exceptional quality of their attention and their word. When they speak, people listen. When they commit, people trust. When they show up, people feel it. This person has not achieved this through loudness or constant presence. They have achieved it through the consistent practice of these 5 principles. Every word they speak has been selected. Every commitment they make has been chosen carefully. Every relationship they invest in has been chosen. That selectivity is what creates the reputation. The reputation is not managed. It is earned. Reflection. Which of the 5 principles is most absent from your current behavior? And what would change, in how others experience you and in how you experience yourself, if that principle became your default? Transition. These principles apply to how you engage with the world. But there is an equally important dimension that is less often discussed. How selective engagement shapes your own internal experience and why protecting your attention is ultimately about protecting your identity. Chapter 4. Protecting your attention is protecting your identity. Hook. What you give your attention to becomes what you think about. What you think about becomes who you are. Lesson. Attention is not a neutral resource. It is not simply a channel through which information passes without affecting the container. What you give your attention to shapes your internal world. The conversations you enter shape your concerns. The content you consume shapes your beliefs. The people you engage with most consistently shape your values, your vocabulary, your view of what is normal, your sense of what is possible. Your attention is the primary input into the construction of your identity. And most people give it away without any awareness of this. They scroll through content that gradually, invisibly, shapes their fears and their desires. They enter conversations that pull their emotional energy in directions they never consciously chose. They give their engagement to people and situations that return nothing while quietly consuming the resources that were meant for the life they actually want to build. Selective engagement is therefore not just a social strategy. It is a form of self-preservation. The deliberate curation of what gets access to the most important real estate you possess. The inside of your mind. The person who selects what they read, who they spend time with, which conversations they enter and which they allow to pass, which content they consume and which they refuse, is not being antisocial. They are being the architect of their own inner world. And the inner world produces the outer life. The mind that is constantly flooded with noise, conflict, other people's urgency and drama produces a life of noise and reaction. The mind that is carefully curated, protected, given space for depth and silence and genuine thought, produces something entirely different. Clarity. Creativity. The capacity for real insight. The ability to build something that the reactive, scattered mind never has the resources to reach. Example. Think about any period in your life when you consumed content or Engaged with people that were consistently negative, anxious, or draining. What happened to your own mood, your own thinking, your own sense of possibility during that period? Now think about a period when you were selective. When you protected your mornings. When you read things that expanded rather than diminished you. When you spent time with people who challenged and elevated rather than drained. The difference in the quality of your thinking, your creativity, your sense of self during those two periods is the clearest evidence available that attention curation is one of the most important practices available to a human being. Reflection. What is currently getting access to your attention that you would not consciously choose to give access? What inputs are shaping your inner world that you never deliberately selected? And what would you curate differently if you treated your attention as the most valuable thing you own? Transition. The internal and external practices of selective engagement build toward one outcome. A life of genuine depth in place of exhausting breadth. And that is what the final chapter is about. Chapter 5. The life that selective engagement builds. Hook. Less given more carefully builds more than more given carelessly ever could. Lesson. The life that selective engagement builds is not a smaller life. It is a deeper one. Fewer relationships, but relationships of genuine quality. The kind where both people actually know each other. Where care is real because it was earned through genuine attention rather than extended by default. Where conversation goes somewhere because both people are actually present for it. Fewer commitments, but commitments honored completely. The word that means something. Because it was not given freely. The promise kept because it was made deliberately. The reputation for reliability that comes not from saying yes to everything but from delivering completely on the things you do say yes to. Less noise, but more signal. The conversation that actually moves something because both participants are genuinely engaged rather than half-present. The work that actually produces something because it was done with full focus rather than scattered across 20 simultaneous distractions. And perhaps most importantly, a relationship with your own inner life that most people in the constant engagement culture never develop. The capacity to be alone without being lonely. To be silent without being empty. To exist without the constant validation of external interaction. This last quality is the most powerful of all. Because the person who does not need constant external engagement to feel okay is free in a way that the person who does is not. They cannot be manipulated through social pressure. They cannot be rattled by being left out of a conversation. They cannot be diminished by someone withdrawing their attention. Their sense of self is grounded in themselves, not in the continuous flow of external engagement. And that groundedness is the foundation of every form of real confidence, real authority, and real attraction that this audiobook has been building toward. The person who selects who gets their time and who does not. Who chooses which conversations deserve their energy and which do not. Who gives their full presence to the few rather than their fractured presence to the many. Who protects their attention as the valuable finite resource it actually is. That person moves through the world differently. They do not chase. They do not perform. They do not need to manage how they are perceived because the way they are perceived is the natural result of who they actually are. And how they actually live. They are simply, quietly, completely themselves. And that is the most powerful version of any human being that can exist. Example. Think about the person in your life who has the qualities described in this chapter. The one who does not seem to need the room's approval. Who engages when it is worth engaging and is absent when it is not. Who gives you Their full attention when they give it and whose partial attention you have never experienced. They may not have the most followers. They may not be the most immediately impressive person in any given room. But they are the one whose presence is felt, whose words are remembered, and whose respect, when given, actually means something. That is the life selective engagement builds. Not smaller. Deeper. Not quieter in a way that disappears. Quieter in a way that commands reflection. What would the deepest version of your life look like? Not the broadest. The deepest. The one with fewer but more genuine relationships. Fewer but more meaningful commitments, less noise and more signal. And what is one thing you could begin protecting today that would start building that life? Final conclusion. The world will always want more of you than you should give. More of your attention, more of your time, more of your energy, more of your response, more of your engagement, more of your presence. The demands are infinite and they will never stop arriving. The question is not whether the demands will come. They will. The question is who is deciding. Which demands receive what is yours to give. If you are deciding, you are building a life. If the demands are deciding, you are living inside someone else's agenda while your own waits indefinitely. Throughout these 5 chapters, one truth has returned in different forms. Your attention is not free. It has cost. It has value. It shapes who you become and what gets built in your life. The conversations you enter, the interactions you choose, the people you give your engagement to, the content you allow into your mind, all of it is either building you or dismantling you, either moving you toward the life you want or keeping you endlessly available for the lives of others. Selective engagement is not selfishness. It is stewardship. The careful, deliberate stewardship of the most valuable resources you possess. And the world responds to that stewardship in a specific way. Not with resentment. With respect. Because the person who values their own time teaches everyone around them to value it too. The person who gives their attention selectively makes every instance of that attention feel like a gift. The person who is not endlessly available makes their availability feel like an event worth something. That is the power of selective engagement. And it has been available to you in every interaction you have ever had. Last 60-second emotional closing. Starting tomorrow, you have a choice. You can wake up and give yourself to everything again. To every message, every notification. Every conversation that arrives whether you invited it or not. You can scatter your presence across dozens of interactions and end the day exhausted and wondering why nothing feels deep. Or you can begin to select. Not perfectly. Not dramatically. Just the quiet daily practice of asking, before you engage, is this worthy of what I am about to give it? Does this conversation deserve my full attention? Does this person deserve my presence right now? Does this interaction build something or simply consume something? Those questions, asked consistently, change everything. Not immediately. But over time, in the quality of your relationships, in the depth of your work. In the respect you carry in every room you enter, and in the relationship you have with your own inner life, the change becomes undeniable. The person who selects is not cold. They are clear. Not distant. Grounded. Not unavailable. Valuable. And that person, the clear, grounded, genuinely valuable person, is who you become when you stop giving yourself away to everything and start giving yourself completely to what actually deserves you. That life is available. Starting with the next interaction you choose not to enter. YouTube outro. If this audiobook shifted something in how you think about your attention and your presence, share it with someone who has been giving themselves away too freely. Drop a comment below and tell me which of the 5 principles hit closest to home. Subscribe if you want more content that goes this deep. There is much more ahead. Take care of yourself. Protect your attention. Choose your engagement. And remember, less interaction does not make you less. It makes you more. See you in the next one.